Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, Doctor, we are live now. Please, would like to have Dr. Lukman Rahim give us his welcome address. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما أيها الإخوة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We give thanks and praises to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the opportunity to attend this webinar. I want to particularly welcome everybody to today's session by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As a form of remark, sometime in Ramadan or after Ramadan, the Central Bank of Nigeria came up with what it called non-interest intervention schemes for the purpose of meeting the needs and agitations of the Muslims. Since then, Muslims have been calling me, those who are members of our association and those who are non-members, that there is need to have a sort of session where Muslims will be educated on how to seize these unique opportunities. And I told them that at the right time, Islamic professional organization will come up with that particular program, because not every Islamic organization is equipped to dabble into financial matters, because Quran is very, very specific. Allah says, "Fas'alu ahla lidhikri in kuntum la ta'lamun," that we should ask those who are knowledgeable about a particular phenomenon. And in this particular occasion, we are talking about financial matters. So I'm very happy that the Coalition of Islamic Organizations, specifically GMP, Guild of Muslim Professionals, MPAC, MICA, NASFAT, have actually come up with this particular program. For those just joining, this is actually a program that started specifically in August 22, and also there was another session in August 29, and this is the third session. So far, the coalition has discussed the following. They've discussed accelerated agricultural development scheme, as well as anchor borrower program. That was what was discussed on August 22. Last week, August 29, the coalition brought experienced professionals to do justice to another set of intervention, specifically discuss what we call the Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises Development Fund, the moral entrepreneur obligation of Muslims to pay back, and inshallah today, there will be another very important discussion that actually focus on non-oil export stimulation facility and investment option, as well as a summary of non-interest finance intervention fund discussed in the past 3 weeks. In all, 6 areas have been discussed: the Accelerated Agricultural Development Scheme, ANCO Borrower Program, Agri-Business Small and Medium Enterprise Investment Scheme, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Fund, also the Moral Entrepreneur Obligation of Muslims to pay back, and also Creative Industry Financial Initiative, opportunities available in the creative and technology space, credit support for health care, and today non-oil export stimulation facility and investment option. The most important thing for Muslims, either as professionals, as artisans, is that we don't have any excuse anymore. Before now, we are agitating. Before now, we call ourselves the marginalized, group. But now we have been given what we are yearning for. And it is our responsibility as individuals and groups to actually seize this opportunity to actually bring us the bottom of the pyramid. If you look at Nigeria, we have Muslim as the majority. But when it comes to poverty, unemployment, and what have you, we are at the bottom of the pyramid. We don't have any excuse anymore. In the era of Islamic banking, we clamor for them give us, of us have with Islamic bank. We have been yearning for non-interest, bonds. Now we have Sukuk and other infrastructural bonds that are based on Islamic principle. How many of us have seized that opportunity? Now CBN has given us intervention, so many intervention about line 9. The question is, are we going to sit down and allow those who are already at an advantage position to also seize this opportunity? For our information, is not for Muslim alone. Once you are a Nigerian and you love non-interest, investments, you are allowed to actually partake in it. So, brothers, let us log on into this particular opportunity. I want to end this particular remark quoting Abu Ala Maududi. Abu Ala Maududi said Islam is a treasure, but how do we treat the treasure? Do we treat Islam with regards or disdain? So I'm also asking that question. Are you going to treat this particular intervention with regards or disdain? Abu Ala Maududi lamented several years back that we are surrounded by treasures. But how do we treat them? We play with them in the same way as the ignorant child who, surrounded by diamond, regard them as stones. My heart bleeds when I see us frittering away such tremendous wealth and power through ignorance and foolishness. Brothers and sisters in Islam, this particular webinar has actually increased our knowledge, our skills and abilities to be able to leverage this opportunity. Don't let us use foolishness to allow this particular opportunity to elude us. Today, as I have said, we are going to listen to more thought-provoking insight into non-export stimulation facility and investment option, as well as a summary of all that had been discussed. To give us better understanding of his words and to make them beneficial for us on this surface of the earth and on the day of judgment. Which favor of our Lord are we going to deny? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdurrahim, for your thought-provoking welcome remarks. Without further ado, we're going to call on our brother, Mr. Olawale Aziz, of Sterling Bank Non-Interest Finance, to take us through the non-oil export stimulation facility and investment options available from the central bank intervention facilities. Mr. Olawale Aziz, please, the floor is yours. Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Olawale Aziz is speaking to us on how to understand the approved, how to understand non-oil export stimulation facilities. So he's going to share his ideas and his knowledge with us in a minute. So he's coming online now.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
We can hear you. Good.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Clearly,
we can hear
we can
you.
hear you clearly.
Okay. Sorry, I guess it was Okay, so assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, I was saying that I would like to quickly make an observation to what the doctor that made the opening remark said. Or was that captured already?
Please go ahead, Mr.
Hello,
Aziz. Your
Abdulhakeem.
presentation.
Okay,
Go ahead with
fine.
your presentation.
Okay, fine. So, thank you. So it's just to encourage us before I go into the proper presentation to say that practically, for Christian-owned hospitals, and I'm yet to witness, a proposal from hospitals owned by Muslim Ummah. That's very pathetic. I hope one will come very shortly, maybe after this presentation. So today we're looking at the non-oil export stimulation facility, trying to understand the newly approved NIFI intervention funds by Central Bank of Nigeria. So we'll go to the second slide, which is the table of content. And we're going to be looking at the objectives of these non-oil export stimulation facility. We'll be looking at who are those that are eligibility to the funds or to the facility. We'll look at the type of transactions that we can put on the table for us to partake in this facility. We'll also be looking at the application requirements and collateral requirements, financing terms, and then what Sterling has to offer, as regards this non-oil exports. Now, I decided to go very practical, rather than delving into data or historical or whatever, being very practical on how, where, why, and when we can get these things done. So we move on to the objectives very quickly. And objective number one is saying that it is to improve access of exporters to concessionary finance. That's in order to expand and diversify the non-oil sector basket. Well, I believe that we all understand what non-oil exports refers to. It simply means agricultural commodities and mineral resources. Nigeria is greatly dependent on oil exportation, and we all know the effects. So we are trying to have more receivables. Let's earn more from the developed countries by supplying them what they do not have, rather than depending solely on importation. So we're focusing more on exportation of agricultural commodities and mineral resources. Another objective is to attract new investments, into this sector and encourage reinvestment for those who were into business before and they're out of it, maybe due to lack of how will I put it now? Environment that is not encouraging, and then to give them a value-added non-export production that is not traditional, The second objective is to say, the third objective is to show up the non-oil export sector productivity and create more jobs. So this is going to create more jobs. By the time the CBN pumps money into the non-oil, the agricultural commodities and mineral resources, of course, the productivity will be enhanced, and then we'll have more people to come on board in the industry. And the final one speaks to support export-oriented companies, at least for them to upscale. There are a lot of people trying to do exportation of raw materials, inputs, hibiscus flour, sesame seeds, cocoa, a whole lot. And because they do not have access to finance, they are unable to scale up. So these intervention funds, because they're a single digit, of course, definitely is a fund that is patient and cheap. So they'll be able to scale up and expand their export operations, as well as to give them the capacity, to focus more on different financing instruments that we have now presently. I move to the fourth slide, which speaks to the eligibility criteria. For you to be eligible to enjoy these intervention funds, of course, you must have a company that is duly registered. This we are doing alongside financial inclusion, because we discovered that one of the major problems that the Muslims have in this country is that we run businesses, a lot of small, tiny, medium businesses that are not registered and no business record. So money go into personal accounts. So they don't really have any documents to approach the banks or any financial institution for financing. So you must be duly registered, and of course, registered as a non-export trader, or company. And then for you to enjoy the facility, there must be an evidence of off-takers. That speaks to the fact that you have partners abroad. The CBN intervention funds is not meant for open market transaction. You need to have a structured off-takers, committed off-takers that can be backed up by documents. Say that, yes, I have a verifiable export off-taker, from China, from US, any part of the world, that are willing to take up your agricultural commodities or your mineral resources. The third point for you to be eligible is that, of course, we all know once you have a bad credit report in the past, CBN rule is that you should not be granted any form of facility again. So which means that credit worthiness is very important, and we have to watch it to ensure that anywhere you have the opportunity to access finance, especially the intervention funds that a lot of people consider to be a national cake, you have to be responsible to pay back on time as I went due. Okay, and then the fourth one is, of course, the provisions of, the fourth one is simply supporting that your credit report must be clean, because that provision of CBN speaks to the fact that once you have a record of bad credit report in the past, you will not have the opportunity to ask for that financing. Okay, so we go to the fifth slide, which speaks to the eligible transactions. We're looking at transactions that are Shariah compliant, transactions that are under this non-export stimulation facility. Of course, we'll be looking at goods processed or manufactured in Nigeria, okay? Because sometimes you see people package something like, mineral resources that are being processed for further manufacturing of final goods like the car batteries, and some other things like that. Even half processed food are being exported out. Then we look at the export of commodities and services, which are allowed under the laws of Nigeria. We all know that. And of course, do not violate the principles of non-interest banking and finance. We all know what is halal and what is haram, so I wouldn't dwell on that. Pork and all that, ammunition, alcohol, and a whole lot. Of course, import of plant or importation of plant and machinery for us to grow the non-oil sector, it's also allowed under these intervention funds. So for people who want to do rice milling, who want to do any form of processing under the agricultural value chain, we all know that we do not have this equipment in Nigeria. I mean, almost 100% of very efficient equipment and modern equipment will be imported to Nigeria. So this is also allowed under this scheme. So that will help spare parts, packaging materials, these are required for export-oriented production. That can, of course, it has to be verified that whatever you are importing, it surely cannot be sourced locally. If they can be sourced locally, then you'll be advised to get them locally. Of course, if you want to do expansion of an existing agricultural business, modernization, you want to upgrade your technology, your equipment, this is also allowed. We're looking, that speaks to acquisition of equipment, and technology to boost the non-oil export sector. Now, and of course, export value chain support services such as transportation, warehousing, and then quality assurance infrastructure. So to this, we might be looking at data farming, looking at data farming, looking at greenhouse farming, all these very recent farming supported by technology, whereby you don't need to wait for a season for you to enjoy any form of agricultural produce. I mean, it's all year round. You can get maize, you can get hibiscus flower, you can get all sorts of all year round, when we apply this greenhouse technology to farming. And of course, we also support working capital for acquisition of seedlings, raw materials, and some other consumables, And the last one is just to say that if you cannot find what suits your request, in the first 6 points we have mentioned, then the 7th one is that we can structure any form of financing for you, which is going to be specific to your own request. But of course, we are being guided by the legal maxims of a transaction in Islam. Everything must be Sharia compliant, but we can structure and think outside the box. Then we move to the next slide, which speaks to the application requirement. Of course, there must be a request letter. That means you're going to write your request to your choice of financial institution, to Sterling, for example. Then you're going to, and there's an application form that you complete. And of course, you submit all these with your CAC documents, your evidence of tax clearance for 3 years, audited financials, and of course, where applicable, recent management accounts will be submitted as well. We'll look at your feasibility study, your executive summary, business plan, and the necessary approvals and permits for the specific line that you are in the non-oil exports. Maybe you're into mineral resources or agricultural commodities, and if your request do affect needs environmental impact assessment, of course, we'll request for that to be applicable. I mean, so these are the things that you need to put together if you want to apply for the intervention funds on the non-oil sector. Okay, we'll go to the collateral requirement. We all know that the financial institutions, the commercial banks, we have the responsibility to ensure that we carry out the risk asset assessment criteria on every request. Okay, so let's look at the collateral requirement. Of course, we all know about the investment certificate, popularly called Sukuk. This could be a form of security for you. If you don't have Sukuk, federal government Sukuk, it can be a collateral. And of course, there are different types of Sukuk as well, as we can see. asset-backed sukuk, asset-backed sukuk supported by or guaranteed by federal government, or sukuk that is regulated by CBN as well. All these sukuk certificates can be used for collateral under this intervention scheme. Of course, you know that a lot of commercial banks will want to look at fixed asset or tangible collateral. We're talking about landed properties now, because we know that a whole lot of people do not have the sukuk certificate. So we might be looking at the tangible collateral, to support your request. Then, of course, any other securities that are Sharia compliant and accepted to CBN can be considered. At the same time, we may substitute tangible collateral for bank guarantee on guarantors. It depends on the risk assessment of every application. That will guide our judgment for the type, on the type of collateral we're going to be requesting from the applicant. The 8th slide speaks to financing terms. Of course, we all know that all in all, overall profit rate is going to be 9%. And for us to know that the federal government is really supporting agriculture or supporting non-oil exports, the profit share between the commercial bank and the CBN is 7-2, only on this non-oil export stimulation facility. On the health side is a 7-3. Is 6-3. The commercial bank earns 6, the CBN earns 3%. But on the agri side, on the non-oil export side, the commercial bank will earn 7%, while CBN enjoys a 2% profit sharing. That is to show that they really want commercial bank to drive this facility and to ensure that we engage a whole lot of platforms and group of people to be aware about these intervention funds. So to the maximum of 10 years, if we look at it, it's practically a 7-year tenure, because this is going to expire by 2027, Then what can be financed with the intervention funds won't be more than 70% of your total cost. Of a total cost of your project. So, and of course, to the maximum of 5 billion per obligor. Now, of course, this supports working capital. The working capital, period or tenor is just 1 year, though renewable. Of course, it's renewable, but we need to get approval from the CBN to renew the 1 year tenor for working capital. And of course, it's going to be on reducing strategy. You won't get the same amount in the second time you are renewing your working capital, because we know that work has begun and you've made progress. So your working capital can be the same. But when you're looking at maybe you're talking about construction, you're talking about leasing and some other Murabaha line transactions, then of course a 7-year tenure will suffice for that. Now, moratorium shall be the project. It will be project specific. It will be project specific, but not exceeding 2 years. But the beauty is that if you are doing a leasing or a construction of a warehouse, you could ask for an additional 1 year to make it 3 years. But if you're looking at working capital, your moratorium can be, if there's no moratorium for working capital. Okay, there's no moratorium for working capital, but there's a moratorium of 2 years for different projects. And of course, if you're speaking to istisna, which is construction, looking at major equipment leasing, you could extend these 2 years by a year. So, and this has been mentioned here, in case of construction, additional moratorium of up to 1 year may be allowed, subject to approval by the CBN. permit me to move to the next slide, which is slide number 9. And this is looking at what exactly can we offer in Sterling Bank to support the non-export stimulation facility. And of course, in Sterling Bank non-interest banking window, we are ready to finance our customers, our clients, in accordance with the approved non-interest financial contracts as dictated by CBN. Okay. So based on the target activities described in the guideline, NIB Sterling Bank can sponsor projects involving various agricultural related assets using CBN approved NIFI contracts. So we're going to see below the different contracts that we have been applying already, in Sterling Bank. In Sterling Bank, it's good to mention that we have a dedicated desk or department for agriculture and mineral resources, which is very robust, and we've done a lot. We have a very good portfolio in agriculture. We've enhanced a lot of farms and mining businesses in Nigeria. So one of the contracts we are using in Sterling Bank now is a lease contract, which is a JARA, to finance tractors for farmers, trucks, plants, machinery, and different equipment for farming. Okay. We also have a trade finance Murabaha that we're using to support the export of agro commodity, which includes cocoa beans, cashew nuts, sesame seeds, ginger, shea nuts, hibiscus flower, and all that. And of course, raw materials, inventory, and stock in trade. Presently, we just finance close to about 7 billion fertilizer deal with the Musharaka, which is not mentioned here, with the Musharaka contract, in the north to finance distribution of fertilizer to farmers. That's very seasonal, and it turned out to be very profitable. The farmers are happy, and the bank is also happy. Now we have Istisna as another contract, and Istisna we address the acquisition of plant as well, because some people may want to construct equipment that is not presently existing. In the case of the lease of Ijara, we're actually paying directly to existing equipment that we can buy and ship down to Nigeria immediately. But when you look at plant and machinery under Istisna, it shows that those equipment are not existing. They may be very specific. The user is the one, giving specifications to the manufacturer as to how they want it, in their own field. And of course, we also use Istisna, which is construction finance, to build warehouse, and to build farm storage, to construct cold rooms, for perishable fruits, foodstuff, and all that, And we also apply working capital. This working capital, we can refer to it as Salam, which is a deferred sale. And of course, this works with the anchor borrower, where you get the off-taker to buy the produce of the farmer, and the bank will make a payment to that farmer right now, waiting for the supply of the farm produce by the farmer in accordance with the quantity and the quality agreed with the anchor borrower or with the off-taker. So we support this. You find produce such as food crops, wheat, maize, rice, millet, depending on the region, on the zone where the farmer is operating. That dictates the type of produce or agricultural activities that we're going to finance in such area. Now, we also have CACS, that is the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme, that in Sterling today, we're pushing for a product paper that's going to be just a tick product paper for transactions within 50 million limit. Okay. And presently, we also have the structured finance portfolio that we have created, a 50 billion naira portfolio for agricultural agri businesses right now. And I can say that up to yesterday, I think we've exhausted close to like a 17, 18 billion. We got a request from state government, from a group of people, from EDIs, professional bodies like this, or a collection of farmers. So I will just use this opportunity to say that I know surely we'll have farmers in the house. Sterling Bank welcomes your proposal, your request, your request to be able to access this non-interest intervention funds for non-oil or non-oil export transactions. So you're welcome. We have a very big room, and our target is to ensure that this 50 billion is exhausted in 3 months. So we're already speaking with Lagos State as well, and I know they're coming up with a very huge request trying to bring people together. And I know that the guide of Muslim professionals will also not lag behind to ensure that we get their request after this session. And I think this is all I have to say concerning this presentation. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to the House.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We thank you so much for everything you've done, and we believe you've been able to address the topic, and I'm sure there will be questions. We already have a number of questions on the screen. Some people are asking about the link. We posted the link in the Q&A section, so you can go onto YouTube and you'll be able to find the link for all the previous sessions as well, including this. This has been streamed live as well on YouTube. We already have more than 300 people online, so please join the conversation online. We can take your questions on YouTube as well. Without further ado, we're going to move on to the next segment, which is to have our brother, Mr. Said Akinriade, speak to us about a summary of everything we've been discussing for the last 3 weeks. We've had many sessions, and he's going to summarize everything to us now, and we're going to be able to have a chance to ask questions after this. So all the questions that we've not answered, Mr. Aziz is still online. So we're going to have Mr. Said Akinriade join us right now, and we are now going to have him summarize the various CBN non-interest intervention programs for us. So Mr. Said, please, if you are ready, just start. You can unmute yourself and start your introduction.
That's what they are watching.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We give thanks to Allah for giving us this opportunity to be able to go through this and also have a kind of an understanding about what it is. In the last 3 weeks, there have been several presentations by different speakers explaining to us what the CBN interventions were and how we can, partake in them. So basically, what I'll be doing now is just to give a summary, like the chairman of Guild of Muslim Professionals said earlier, to give a summary of what these interventions. Basically, the interventions covers varied businesses, and it speaks to a lot of sectors, and we need to get this, kind of a grip of what the interventions are speaking to. So what I've done here is to say that there are 2 major categories that we want to put this under, and those are: 1, specific interventions, those that speak to specific or address specific sectors of the economy, and those areas where the government seeks to increase productivity and also improve, what could be generated. One way is a way for the government to also diverse from the mainstream oil sector, where we can have other sector group, particularly agriculture. Like the mantra of the government is grow what we feed. We should feed ourselves. That is, we should grow what we eat. So basically, there are a lot of intervention coming on into that sector, that is agriculture. So there are specific interventions that speak to specific industries and sector. Then there are general intervention that speaks to a whole lot of other businesses, that addresses a whole lot of other businesses that are out there. Now, for the specific, the next slide gives us a chart of what these interventions are speaking to. And what I have here is that you have the CBN intervention, you have the divided into specific and general. Then the specific intervention speaks to one, healthcare. You have healthcare intervention support, which was supposed to expand the healthcare industry, particularly those who are operating hospitals. This speaks to hospital expansion. This actually is coming out of the wake of the pandemic, where we now know that one big area that we should be investing in more is in healthcare. We need to improve the health facility. So a lot of funding is being made available for the healthcare industry, for expansion, for pharmaceutical industries, for production and expansion as well. Then at the same time for diagnostic, sector of the same industry where people could get diagnosed easily and all of that. So that's speak to one area. Then the other specific area is the tester industry. Essentially, what this tester industry is doing is basically to do a refinancing arrangement for those loans that have been collected under BOI for the tester industry. The CBN is trying to, refinance that for them, and also to ensure that we can grow that. It's much more reasonable for the government to do this anyway, because if we look at our share population, then we should be able to produce what we wear, or what, how we clothe ourselves. It's a very big industry we have not been able to develop effectively. Then the other specific area that the government is also intervening is the creative industry. This, I think, is also very, it makes sense that the government is also able to, government is putting specific attention to this, because it's been one of our largest export aside, oil, basically, if you want to look at that. Already, the practitioners in that industry are saying that they are contributing maybe next to oil in terms of GDP. But of course, we know that a lot of people, one of the things that creates a bit of credibility for us outside the country are people in this industry, from movie production to music, then to ICT. So, what the government is trying to focus here are three major areas. You have the movie production, movie distribution, fashion, and music. Then the ICT. Okay, there are 5 different, focuses where the government is also focusing here. So that has a specific intervention. Then the last, the one that has the biggest mention across all the interventions that the government has provided is agriculture. That's were provided by the government. You have the AADS, which is addressing the youth. That means that, but effectively, what the government is trying to say here is that we shouldn't have army of youth unemployed. but we shouldn't have an excuse for not being employed anyway. So that means that they could latch onto that program to be able to get engaged and also be productive and get something out of that, even though that is associated with what the states are also doing in terms of agriculture. I think one major thing that part of the intervention specifically mentioned was that each state should identify at least two areas they have competitive advantage in terms of agriculture and focus that, then they will be able to support the youths coming on board on that. So you have that, then you have the anchor borrower. Anchor borrower was supposed to also speak to small farm owners, where you could do your, if it is 1 acre, 2 acres of farmland you have, and you could farm there, and you have an off-taker that will take it off from you, or an anchor that will take it off from you. So you have a guaranteed, platform to sell into and also earn your money. So why the government is providing support in terms of inputs and other needed, materials for you to be able to go into that. So Anchor Brewer is doing a lot. I mean, they're doing a lot in that in terms of that. Then you have the AGMIS. AGMIS is supposed to address, is a versatile fund by CBN that because it addresses a lot of the issue. Of course, from that fund, two other funds were created, and that is the Creative Industry Finance Initiative and the micro and small business, micro and small and medium enterprises development fund was also created out of that. So that means that that is addressing a lot of old issues, but they have to delineate. But of course, what we're trying to focus there is that it also addresses issues around agriculture and its value chains. So that means that it's not just about tilling the ground, but of course, other value chains that comes along with agriculture in terms of production of fertilizer, production of seedling, production of distribution of agricultural material, logistics support to agriculture, and all of that. All of this could also benefit from that fund. Akin to that is also that we have agriculture featured in MSSDF, that is the Micro and Small Enterprise Development Fund. You could access, funding from there to support your agricultural business. The same way you can also access it under Race Sector Support Fund. Race Sector Support Fund was supposed to be another general fund, but of course, agriculture also features in there. So it means that agriculture is one area the government is trying to promote and ensure that we can increase to a large extent what we produce from that. Then the general side of the intervention, you have two major funds that support general businesses, and that is micro, small, and medium-sized development fund, MSFDF, that supports all kinds of businesses, from micro, that is businesses that are now registered, and to medium-sized businesses that are registered, and all of that. All you need to do in there is to, for micro businesses, they will have to go through an EDI to be able to access the fund by going to some level of training, and after that you're certified, and then you will be able to access the fund from there. For MSME, of course, you need your other documentation in terms of what you have, your registered business certificate and all of that. Then your business plan and other accounts must be provided to get access to the fund. Then the same thing happens with Risk Sector Support Fund. Risk Sector Support Fund also support different businesses, from cottage industry to light manufacturing to services. Services, like I've seen a lot of people ask questions about educational business. I mean, businesses in the educational sector. How much can this? Where can they access? I mean, which of the fund can they access? This is an area that they can access funding from. So raise sector support, support finances across all businesses and service industry, including trading. I think some of these other funds do not attend to trading. Uh, uh, Businesses involved in trading activities, basically. But raise sector support fund, are able to give that opportunity for those who want to access for that. So this is a general overview of what the CBN intervention, is looking like. I've explained this specific and each areas that each of them is trying to, assess. I think generally the level of what can be assessed depends on the size of the business, and the caliber of person involved. Apart from ADS, that is age, that has an age bar, none of the fund has anything to do with age limits, but much more has to do with your ability to provide what you can do and all of that. And of fund to be able to assess is the ADS with, I think, around 250,000 for some cropping. Why, as they also grow in terms of what activities they were involved in, you can assess more. But the creative industry has some of the highest amount of money you can access, I think up to 50 million naira. So there are varied amounts that could be assessed depending on the size of the business and what the business is able to do. And like it was said earlier, I think one of the earlier presentation, the first session, that for anybody to be able to access this funding, you first and foremost need to establish relationship with an NFI institution. So this intervention does not link us or let us have a direct relationship with the CBN. We don't have any direct relationship, or nobody has any direct relationship with CBN, but you must establish relationship with your banks first. And because this is non-interest, NFI has a lot of roles to play. So that is why you need to establish a relationship with them. So if you haven't got any relationship with any of these NFIs, then you have to look at which of them you will want to establish a relationship with first and foremost. Then you'll be able to assess the funding thereon. I think pretty much that is the summary of the presentation so far. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Said Akinriade, for helping us wrap up all the intervention programs. But before you go, we have a series of questions, and we would like to just pose the questions to the presenters today. So the first question, and I will ask Mr. Aziz and Mr. Sahid to still stay on the line and answer the questions. One of the questions we have is regarding the link to this program. The YouTube link. We have already provided that in the Q&A segment, so you can use that link for this session and for the previous sessions as well. There was another question about the materials that were shared over the last 3 weeks. We are all going to get links. Everybody that has registered will get a link that will give us access to all the presentations that have been made so far. Okay, Mr. Olawale Aziz, you are requested to help provide details in brief on how participants could access, private schools could access the SAF services. That is one. There is also a question of how would Muslim professionals, the Guild of Muslim Professionals, be able to provide a bit of grooming for people that are interested in eligible transactions, especially agriculture, since they have no experience in such transactions, but they are interested. So I will leave that for Mr. Said Akiriade to respond to, how to groom people. Then another question is, from the list of eligibility criteria in the non-oil export stimulation facility, is it possible for a startup to take advantage of this intervention? So if you could help us answer those 3 questions, Mr. Aziz and Mr. Said, then we can take a few more questions before we wrap up this session this morning. Thank you. Mr. Aziz, please. Mr. Said, you can answer your segment while Aziz gets on. Yeah, the question on how people will be able to get a bit of grooming to have access to these facilities, especially those that are interested in agri. Thank you.
All right. I think essentially, people can seek support from organizations, particularly like Guild of Muslim Professionals is providing, and Mabu Capital is providing this platform. We have an opportunity to get back to this group to be able to see what support we can give to intending, people who intended to, benefit from this intervention. But if you don't know what to do, yeah, there's some, we can say that some of the funding requires that you form yourself into cooperatives, basically, particularly most of those that has to address issues around agriculture. So that means that we could come in 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 people come together, then get, people to support them in terms of, how to walk them through the applications and all of that. I think some banks are also trying to set up a kind of support system that allows you to be able to understand how you are able to do that. So you might also be speaking with your bankers. At some other level, some other consultancy outfit are also organizing platforms that could allow you to be able to understand it better and how to get access those funding. So you might look out for that, see where they are, and also join up. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Mr. Aziz, are you back on? Okay.
Yes, I'm on now.
Okay, if you could ask.
Okay, let me quickly. They're asking about how the private school owners can enjoy these facilities. The first step they need to take is to ensure that they have a relationship with their bank, with a commercial bank, as in open the school account, because we discovered that some schools have CAC registration, but they do not have the state approval to run schools. So that limits them a lot. But of course, it's allowed for you to have, or if you have a letter and you have an evidence that you submitted your request, seeking for approval of your school, we can work with that. That is one step you need to take. Then another thing is that, of course, you need to give us a business proposal. Maybe you're looking at development of laboratory or ICT room in your school. You're looking at new furnitures and all that. Whatever you want, you need to put everything together, and then we must be able to compare it with your financials. We've also experienced the fact that a whole lot of schools do not have very clear or do not maintain their financials well. They don't have a good bookkeeping. All these matters when you want to access any kind of funds, whether it's the commercial facility or an intervention facility. You must keep proper record of your receivables, and your spendings. This will help you a lot. And of course, we offer lease, acquisition of school bus and other materials for schools, such as maybe furniture, as I said earlier, and of course computers as well, and even laptops for the students of the school. We also offer construction finance, especially for extension of an existing school. We all know that banks shy away from purchase of land, but if there's a school operating somewhere and you need to expand to the land beside you, because of the Mokosidi Shariah, because of the purpose of education, we will support the purchase of the land as long as we're able to verify that the land is free from any form of encumbrance. So as much as possible, we support education in different forms, even up to, we now have what we call lease ijara. I'm sorry, service ijara. Service ijara speaks to the fact that we can now offer payment of school fees, on behalf of parents. I mean, we can do that once we know that the person has the capacity to pay, but maybe the cash flow expectation has not matured. So for such people, we will do that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. There are two more questions here, and
okay.
So we'll go to them. Number one, this is from YouTube. Please, is there any provision for startup business who have no capacity to finance their business but have the idea to venture into agribusiness? They have no
very well
provision for startup business. They have no capacity to finance, but they have the idea to venture into agribusiness. That's one. Number two, there's a question from one of our professors. Does this fund apply to, do these funds apply to new businesses setting up like a new hospital? Do the funds we are talking about, do they apply to new businesses like setting up hospital? Then the final one, which I would like you to also address, is also online here, where someone is asking that Sterling Bank, so this is for you directly, Mr. Aziz, they approached your staff in Kaduna and they were told that this intervention is still under process. Does it mean that people in the creative industry can't have access to this facility as yet? So those are questions that I would like us to please briefly answer, and yes, so that's the question that a lot of people are actually asking.
Okay. Okay, fine. Let me start from the last one. And I want to put across an apology on behalf of the bank to the person that was misinformed. Maybe the person contacted in Kaduna was not well informed about this intervention funds. It's on, it's real, it's going on. People already applying. And as I said initially, I mean, at the beginning of my presentation, I've also signed not less than 6-7 billion naira intervention funds on the health sector. Okay, so the people, of course, like my co-presenter said that we have specific intervention funds, and we know we have for creative sector. So people who are in the creative sector, we are in the services, art sector. I mean, you have a lot of opportunity to benefit from the intervention funds. Now, the first and second questions, they look alike, and that has to do with startups. For the agri startups, I think we have 11 intervention funds, and one of them speaks to encouraging people who do not have anything. You don't need to have anything. In fact, you do not need to have a collateral. Okay. And today, Sterling Bank, we are approaching mosque. We are collecting the name of mosque for us to be able to get the list of Muslim graduates who are interested in farming, who have very good business proposal, business ideas. they come up, their NYSE certificate suffices for assessment of this facility, because in the first place, the structure is not to release cash to the beneficiaries, So we're going to buy them inputs directly. They're not going to touch money. They won't touch money. Everything is in form of input. We'll support them with everything that they need. And of course, in the area of anchor borrower, we also provide them with the buyer of their produce. So they are good to go, except anyone who is not ready to work. So the intervention fund supports new idea of startup in agriculture. Even in the hospital area, okay. Let me address that of the hospital. For the hospital, the case might be that it's very professional, and somebody who does not have an experience even in diagnostic center or operations that wants to go into a 100-bedded hospital may not be granted such facility, because you know that everything, the risk assessment lies on the commercial bank to ensure that we do a proper profiling, of every customer. But of course, if we have people in the medical line or in the health sector, someone who runs, let me say, who runs a diagnostic center presently and wants to enhance or expand his scope of services to maybe cancer treatment and all that, of course, is possible. We would not look at it as a startup, because the person behind the request is actually a professional and experienced, and has the capacity to handle the business, So that's my response.
Thank you very much. I mean, there is a question that has been repeated, so we think you may need to answer it, either yourself or Mr. Said. The questioner is asking for clarification on the 9% profit issue. They do not understand the difference between 9% profit and the conventional interest rate. So that's really a concern, and we would like someone to clarify that, yourself or Mr. Said. But because that's going to be the last question you'll be answering, I will need to let us understand that, following up from some of the session we had last week, there are 4 major items that we all agree that we have to be conscious of. Number one, and this was from our Dr. Dabiri. Number one is that, just like Dr. Raimi said at the beginning, we've been clamoring for all these facilities. Now they are available. The time to act is now. We must all have accounts with non-interest bank financial institutions. We must also be willing and be ready to go through the process of applying and accessing these facilities, because we want to create wealth for ourselves and for our family members. So the time to act is now. Number 2, please don't shy away from engaging financial consultants to assist you with applications. So you have all these banks that have been on this program, from Sterling Bank to Jais Bank to Taj Bank. They've all been to SunTrust Bank. They've all been on this program, and you can engage them. You can also engage financial consultants, like Marble Capital, to help you assist with your applications, so that you don't just go there. They will tell you to bring 1, 2, 3 documents, and you go away and you say the process is onerous. No, be patient to engage financial consultants to assist you with your applications. Number 3, there's a need for us to create a lot more non-interest financial institutions. It is our responsibility, whether it's a fund management firm, whether it's a financial institution, whether it's a microfinance bank that are non-interest in nature. We need to create more, and we must approach them. The final bit, which is one of the major pinnacles of this session we've had over the last week, is that these facilities are not to be seen as national cake. Okay, so we're not to see it as part of our national cake. Please, let's ensure that we do not, we return this facility whenever we have access to them. We apply them to what we say we're going to apply them to, and may Almighty Allah put barakah in all our intentions and interventions. So the time to act is now. Engage financial consultants to assist you with your applications. Let's create and patronize a lot of non-interest financial institutions, and let's realize that these facilities are being given to us as a manner. So Mr. Aziz, please answer the question on 9% and the difference between that and the conventional interest rate. Thank you.
Oh, okay, welcome. Let me start by saying that Islam discourages two things, and that Prophet Muhammad Sallam has put it to us. Now, these funds are not free money, and we'll keep talking. As we speak now, people who are taking advantage of the facility, they've gone far about it. And I'll say that all the hospitals that I have signed, none belongs to a Muslim. Now, the 9% is for you to know that you are in business dealing, not sadaqah, not alcohol, not free money. It's money you have to pay back, you know. And we have been waiting for this. There's no commercial bank or microfinance bank you will go to today in Nigeria that you get single digit interest, if you like, you know. So this is a great opportunity. I mean, it's very cheap at single digit. And you see that if you look at the sharing formula between the commercial bank and CBN, it shows that the CBN is not actually after the profit, because definitely, you cannot be risk free. It's not all the money that will go out that's going to come back. Some funds we might not come back, maybe due to natural disaster, whatever. There will be reserves. There will be a lot of parameters that they look into, before taking such decision. So the CBN on this on different intervention funds, but specifically on the non-oil export, takes only 2%, while giving the 6% to the commercial bank. The reason is that the commercial bank has gone into, a restricted Mudaraba investment agreement with CBN to say that these funds that you're giving to us, we're going to apply it to specific transactions as we have committed in our agreement. And therefore, we owe central bank the responsibility to ensure that we refund the money back to central bank. So in a case where we have challenges with one or two customers, which is usually almost all the time the case, the commercial bank will have to pay back to central bank. So if we do not have any form of, in fact, it's not a profit to the bank per se. It's just to make up where we're going to have defaults, where we're going to have bad loans, bad credits. I mean, so that we have reserve to cushion the effects of bad credit if it comes up. It's not really a profit per se. Let me put it that way. So I want to encourage us. Let's take up the opportunity right now, and let's know for real that there's nowhere you can get the cheaper funds, except of course if you have business partners who are willing to give you personal funds for the business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have come to the end of this session, and would like to invite the Secretary of the Board of Trustees of the Guild of Muslim Professionals, Dr. Mashood Bello, to actually give us closing remarks. And we hope that we'll be able to have everybody together, engage in all of these interventions. And when you need clarity, please feel free to contact the numbers and the emails that you receive, the numbers there and the email addresses, and any of the agencies that have put this together, all the banks, GMP, NASFAT, MICA, MPAC, just feel free to engage any of their executives, and they will be able to provide you assistance on how to go about this. So please, let's welcome Dr. Mashood Bello, the Secretary of the BOT, Guild of Muslim Professionals, to give us closing remarks. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making this a program a successful one. We planned that we're going to have it, and Allah granted us the opportunity and the wherewithal to hold the program. May Allah accept it from all of us as act of ibadah. First and foremost, I want, on behalf of the Guild of Muslim Professionals and all the participating organizations, MICA, NASFAT, all the banks, and more importantly, Marble Capital that is the leading partner in this project. We thank all of you for coming together to benefit the Muslim community with your knowledge, with your exposure to the financial institutions in Nigeria. And I also want to thank all our presenters. Permit me to thank the organizer for bringing Mr. Aziz Olawale to this program. This is my first time of seeing at least his picture in more than 2 decades now, or thereabout, and all the other presenters as well since the beginning of this program. We thank all of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from you as a sadaqah to Jariyah, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, when a person dies, his deeds come to an end, except for 3 things: sadaqah to Jariyah, a continuous charity, or a knowledge from which benefit is gained, and thirdly, a righteous child who prays for him or her. The knowledge you have dished out, we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a beneficial, the one that people will get benefit from, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from all of you as such and reward you all abundantly. Thirdly, to all participants, I want to thank you for finding time to attend today, and for those who have attended all the sessions, we equally thank all of you. But enough of complaining that we don't have capital, we don't have money, that is why we are not starting any business, or that is why I cannot scale up my business, that is why I'm poor. Or because the commercial bank are taking interest, that is why we cannot approach them. Some people work behind the scene to get government, get CBN to come up with this intervention fund. Now it is here. Now Muslim organizations and brothers and sisters are coming together to share their knowledge with us. So let us take the opportunity and start now, and let us stop complaining. One of the presenters said just now that those who are non-Muslims are taking the opportunity already. Even all the previous interventions that are quote and unquote targeted at Muslims are being taken up by non-Muslims because of our usual lackadaisical attitude. So, but this time around, I want to believe that we'll change as we are talking. I have gone through the list of participants. I have seen that we have our brothers from other religion, our brothers in humanity. They are also attending, they are taking benefit from the knowledge. So those of us that this program have been organized for, let us also take benefit from it and act now. And the time to act is actually now. And lastly, permit me to just challenge the Islamic organizations and other active Islamists that are here to go beyond just participating in this program. Maybe we need to create a desk or in our masajid, in our secretariats, to give support to our brothers and sisters who might be having challenges in developing proposal, in evaluating their proposal, even having problem looking at their business ideas or on what on their existing businesses. Maybe we need to create a desk to support them. At GMP, we'll be taking a step further. We will be looking at opportunity of supporting anybody who want to evaluate business proposal. We may also organize a session to talk about business proposal writing and to give further knowledge on that for those who may be having challenges in that area. So thank everybody for coming. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us all abundantly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, everyone.